Yo, welcome to Throwing Stones. Alongside Ryan Griffin, I'm Matt Basson. And if you don't know, you should know, we talking hoops and not just our beloved Pistons. Got a big show today. We talking Cade, U of M, and MSU tournament matchups. Ryan and I will give you our Elite Eights, our Final Fours, and our National Championship winners. We talking Kobe, winning time, and NBA Twitter of the Week. Before we dive in, got to remind you to like, subscribe, all that good stuff wherever you can find us. That would be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We got TikTok now and full episodes on YouTube. And to those already finding us and commenting, we absolutely appreciate you and your feedback. So please keep them coming. Now, Ryan, let's get it right, get it tight, just like Cade's game, baby.
That's right.
You got 1 month left. 1 month till Rookie of the Year.
I know, and Cade's been making a push. We talked about this on our show last week, and he's just continuing that push. You know, since then, he's become he's tied Kelly Tripica with the longest streak by a Pistons rookie, scoring 20 points. He's done that in 7 straight games, and he's real close to averaging 17, 6, and 5, which would put him in a list with Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Grant Hill, who is also a Pistons rookie sensation, as well as Luka Doncic, for the only rookies, since the three-point era to accomplish that feat. So Cade's just been pushing, man, and I think one of the most important things about Cade Cunningham is his poise right now as a rookie. He's being tasked to do something that no other rookie is being tasked with. He's being double-teamed, like, by far the most out of any rookies. And, like, in all of the NBA, I think he's being double-teamed the 18th most times if you're looking at, number of possessions per game that somebody is double-teamed. So if, like, the other teams in the league are already seeing him as, like, this top 20 threat and are going to double-team him more than just about anybody else, it's really impressive what he's able to do and the numbers that he's able to continue to put up in this last month push for Rookie of the Year. He had another 25, 5 and 5 game since we last recorded, adding to his numbers and extending his lead on all the other rookies combined in that aspect as well. He's just been the Pistons' whole offense, and I know the Pistons aren't very good, but to see what this kid is doing since missing part of the start of the season, and really since the All-Star break, like, his control of the game is so much above anybody else, like, in the rookie class. And there are times in these games, no matter who they're playing, where he's looking like the best player on the court. Or if it's Pistons Celtics, right, it might be like Jason Tatum, but then Cade is looking better than like a Jaylen Brown or somebody else. And it's just really impressive to see, him continue to do this and play these games when, the Pistons obviously really don't have anything to play for.
Or anyone to play with. Frank Jackson's not playing. Killian's not playing. Diallo's not playing. Magruder's not playing. Like, they had 8 guys playing against the Clippers in their last game.
And even if those guys were playing, like, sorry to cut you off, even if those guys were playing, like, take a listen to the names you just listed.
Right.
Diallo, Frank Jackson, like Rodney Magruder.
But, I mean, like you said, his usage rate, it's up to 27%, which leads the team and is the highest among all rookies. He's mimicking Luka so much in the way that he handles the ball, the way he operates against defenders as well, where he's able to draw them in and then find an open man while also getting his own. It's just impressive. And I understand that he started late. He started slow. He was injured in the summer league, and so he didn't start the season, and he's been playing catch-up ever since. But at some point, you got to give up that whole catch-up thing and just look at what the man's been doing compared to the 2 guys he's been chasing in Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley. Very good rookies, both of them. They're putting up 15 and 8 a game. Cade's doing that at halftime. Yeah. So you got to give credit where credit's due. Yes, he's on a bad team. They're all on bad or kind of bad teams. I'll give it up to Evan Mobley and what the Cavaliers have done to make a push for the play-in game for the playoffs. And Scotty Barnes found himself on a mixed match between good and bad between the way the Raptors have played as of late. But you're coming off a team that was, that won the NBA Finals a couple years ago. The Pistons have been bad since Chauncey, Rip, Big Ben, all them gone. We've been bad. And so to see what he's doing and how much he's able to do it while not looking like a rookie pretty much at all. He'll have those turnovers where you're like, okay, that was a rookie mistake. Everyone has turnovers, but there's some where the rookies just look completely off balance. Cade has those once in a while. he just looks so in control already. It's just impressive. He doesn't look like a rookie 75% of the time that he's out on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's it's insane. And there's a reason he was the number one rookie coming into the year, right? There was a podcast that Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons just dropped, I think on Sunday, and they were talking about the rookie of the year stuff a little bit, and they're talking about Mobley obviously, and Bill Simmons liked Mobley like over Cade at the beginning of the draft process. So they're discussing that, and Ryan Russillo said, "I think I was there with you, but even before like the draft, I asked every front office in the NBA, a person in every front office. He might not have access to all the GMs, but he asked every front office in the NBA, and every single one of them came back and were like, no, like we'd rather have Cade, like if we had the number one pick." So for him to really live up to the hype, there wasn't so many rookies in this draft class that came in with a lot of hype, but it seemed like Cade had been the number one choice, leading up to the draft for really that whole year, even like that year and a half. It was always, the race to get Cade, or the prize was Cade Cunningham.
Yep.
If you were on Twitter at all, you saw these different fan bases who wanted the number one pick. They all wanted the same guy, right?
Right.
And the Pistons got that guy, and he's fit every bit of that bill, since he started playing the season.
No, absolutely. He's been phenomenal, and he's catching up. That whole Kia rookie ladder, that you can look up on. He's now number 2. He's right behind Evan Mobley. He leapfrogged Scotty Barnes on the last one that I looked at. So he's making his way up. He's got 1 month left to get there. I hope he gets there. Regardless if he gets there or not, the numbers he's putting up, the group that he's been lumped into by these numbers, should tell you the story of how this kid's career is going to go. It's going to be an all-timer. Just look at the names that he's joined. 90% of them are all-timers. So as long as he stays healthy, there's no reason to think that he can't join this list when his career is said and done. And if he does it in the red, white, and blue of the Pistons, all the better for us.
The soon-to-be teal.
The soon-to-be teal. And that's when I will leave the fan base.
Oh, you bum.
Hey, I actually lived through him. You just heard about him.
We're pro teal on this side.
All right. We got to move on, because as much as we love talking about Cade and our Pistons, it's March Madness. The field is set. The brackets are out. Hold on, it's a little dark in here. Let me get that spotlight going on our Michigan State Spartans and the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan, Ryan, ekes in to the NCAA field. And this is going to anger a whole lot of people that we work with. But eking in at 17-14, had one of the toughest strength of schedules, because everyone loves how hard the Big Ten is, and all these teams do is beat each other up. But this is a team that has not won 3 games in a row all year, and went out with a whimper in the Big Ten tournament. Indiana coming back from 17 points in the second half to oust the Wolverines. They now get the Rams of Colorado State. And what bad luck for the Rams of Colorado State, because these poor guys are not tall. They don't rebound. And Michigan's got Diabate, Dickinson, a couple of boys that are going to be grabbing all the rebounds, all the second chance points, and it's going to make life very difficult for Colorado State.
Yeah, I think the matchups are interesting in this game. You just mentioned Colorado State's lack of size, but it's like truly astonishing. They don't have anybody over 6'8", like on the basketball
team. They have 2 guys. They got a 6'10" guy who averages all of 4 points and 2 rebounds in James Moores, and he's the one who's going to be getting Dickinson the most. And if he fouls out, which he most likely will, you have 6'11" Jacob Jennison, who is a sophomore that averages 0 points and 0.2 rebounds.
I'm sure he's a huge part of the game plan. So no, I mean, it seems like Dickinson's going to feast. Like, how could he not? I think the way you're going to try and win if you're Colorado State is you're going to let Dickinson get his, and then you're going to just hope to God that you can shut down the rest of the Michigan team. And with this being an 11 over a 6, it might sound like an upset or a traditional March Madness Lower seeded team, double-digit seed team, winning in the first round. But Michigan's favored in this game over Colorado State, so it wouldn't be an upset at all. The thing that's interesting is I think Colorado State has better guards than Michigan does. So how are they going to be able to, play? Really, I don't expect Michigan's guards to do a whole lot on offense. I don't think they're going to try to do a lot on offense. So it's going to be, can the guards of Colorado State take over the game, or is Michigan's size, just going to be too much to overcome? Personally, I think it will. I think Michigan should beat Colorado State, although we have some maybe rumorish news that Devontae Jones might not play in the game. By the time this comes out, Michigan will probably have already played, so we might see if that came to fruition or not. But I mean, it's going to be tricky on both sides. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a rout by any means. But if you're Michigan, the clear advantage in your game, is your big man.
That's bad news for Michigan if Devontae Jones is not playing, because the Rams have really two very good players. One's NBA prospect David Roddy Jr., 19 points, 7 rebounds, shoots 60% from 2, 45% from 3. The other is Isaiah Stevens. So junior, he's their point guard, averages 15 points and 5 assists. And he's the guy that you want Devontae Jones on, because they're both lightning quick with their first step. They both can finish, at the rim. And you need someone like Jones to stick to Stevens. Look, Michigan's the better team out of these two as far as the matchups in this game. The size, the rebounding, the second chance points, that's where this game for me is won or lost. If Michigan can continue to control the boards and get those second chance opportunities and make good on most of them, they're going to win this game. But Colorado State has a couple of guys that can score the ball. And if they can cause enough havoc and not let Michigan build a lead and stick with them, they can pull off this quote-unquote upset as the 6th seed. But if you don't have Jones on Stevens, I don't know who from Michigan is going to pick up that slack. It's not going to be Eli Brooks. I don't think he's picking up that slack defensively. So that's not a good news for Michigan if Jones is out.
No, and I mean, it's hearsay right now, but Jones is probably the reason they're in the NCAA tournament. In that comeback win over Ohio State, he played just a tremendous basketball game. And he played pretty well, if I remember, in the first half against Indiana too, before Michigan choked it away. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to kind of be the other story of the game. Even if Michigan builds one of these big leads, Indiana wasn't the first big lead they've lost all year. I think they've lost like 4 double-digit leads in the second half of games that they ended up going on to lose the game. And say they go 2-2 in those games and only blow 2 of them, then they're probably not even in this situation where they have to play Colorado State. They're probably a 10 or a 9, somewhere around there. But I think Michigan's going to have to finish, but certainly being able to rebound your misses and the other team's misses should help you kind of quell any run that Colorado State might go on.
Yeah, and if you're a Michigan fan and you're looking for what are you going to do against Roddy, Diabate is the guy. That's the guy they're going to put on him. David Roddy, he's 6'5", but he's built like a bulldog. He loves to get
6'5", 250, right?
Was that?
Isn't he like 6'5", 250?
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's a big boy, and you're going to need Diabate to be the one to really, kind of shut him down. The Rams have been shutting themselves down offensively. This is a team that scores 75 points a game, except for the last 6 games for some reason. They're averaging 60. So if that's the offense that comes out, Michigan might have a walk in the park. But if they find their offense again and get back north of 70, Michigan's going to be in for a fight, and it should be, it's going to be one of the more interesting first-round matchups, absolutely, in this NCAA tournament. Another interesting matchup, and this is one, Ryan, that we saw coming a mile away. You knew when this was getting close that this could be a possibility. You knew they were going to jump on this, and they did. Michigan State Spartans taking on their former guard in Foster Loyer, who leads the Davidson Wildcats. And there's so many connections between these two teams. It doesn't hurt that on the Golden State Warriors, you've got Draymond Green on one side, Steph Curry on the other side. Both their coaches have been long-standing coach. I mean, you think Izzo's been around for a long time. Yeesh. Bob McKillop over at Davidson, he's been around since Glenn Rice was playing for Michigan. These two coaches know each other. It's gonna be a battle, Ryan. To me, without giving too much away, I'll let you get into your breakdown of what you think is going to happen. To me, it's all about our defense, and I'll get into more of that in a minute.
I'm so happy that Michigan State drew Davidson, because if there's any team that's going to be equipped to shut down Foster Loyer, it's the team that Foster Loyer spent his entire career on before here. But no, we saw Foster Loyer struggle when he was at Michigan State with size and athletic point guards, and that's what Michigan State has, right? They have athletic guards. They can throw Jaden Akins at you. They can throw AJ Hogard on you. Tyson Walker, probably not quite on the level of the other two guys defensively, but they can put them on Foster Loyer. Izzo knows all of Foster's weaknesses. A lot of that roster knows all of Foster's weaknesses, of which there are many. So I'm pretty excited Michigan State drew this matchup, and I think it's a huge benefit to the Spartans. I don't think they're going to have any problem shutting down Foster. I know Davidson has some other players, that can beat you from deep. But I don't think Michigan State should have any issues with Foster Loyer at all. I think they're going to exploit him more than any other team in the country has. And if they don't, then shame on them.
Okay, well, some things to worry about. Davidson is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. They have 4 players that average at least 12 points per game. They average 76 points a game, which is 58th most in the country. The 8th best three-point shooting team in the NCAA is at almost 39%. And this is where Michigan State generally this year was good defensively. They were pretty good on the perimeter. As of late, heading into the Big Ten tournament, they were giving up threes all day long. Michigan got a bunch against us. Ohio State got a bunch against. It wasn't that patented Michigan State defense. And this is why I say it comes down to this more than anything, because I absolutely agree with you. Shutting down Foster Loyer should not be much of a problem for Michigan State. But Hyunjung Lee is a good scorer as well. They've got Michael Jones, who's a decent player as well. They got guys that can spread the ball and shoot from deep. If our perimeter defense is not up to the task, this is where we can get in trouble, a la a, cover your ears, Spartan fans, Middle Tennessee State. MTSU killed us with the 3-ball. And if our defense is not up to the task and our threes are not falling, because we're a pretty decent three-point shooting team too at times, it could be a long day for Michigan State. I hope it's not. I hope it's a walk in the park. I hope Foster Loyer plays the way he played to finish the A-10 tournament against Richmond, 1 for 7 for 7 points, as opposed to his 17 points per game that he averaged this year.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it, right? Michigan State's a good three-point shooting team in their own right. Davidson is at 38.6%, and the Spartans are at 37.7%. So I don't necessarily even think matching threes with them is going to be a problem. It's just a matter of, if some of our guys are going to take them. One of the things I think we can do as well is, exploit Foster Loyer defensively, because AJ Hogard, he was attacking even in the game that we lost against Purdue. Foster Loyer was attacking, right? We saw Tyson Walker be a little bit more aggressive in the Big Ten tournament. And if our guards go straight at Foster Loyer, you're going to see another pitcher moment of somebody with their foot on his chest finishing fast break like he had against Duke. I think it was Duke who they dunked on like Foster Loyer and put his foot right on his chest on the ground.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, man. I just think our guards are going to be able to shut him down and then exploit him on the other end. And I just think overall we're a better team than Davidson is. We played tougher competition. And here's one of the things that I think can bode well for Michigan State in this tournament is getting out of playing Big Ten teams, because when they were crazy hot to start the year, they weren't playing any Big Ten teams, and then the Big Ten play started. That's where you started to see some of the shakiness of them. So I think getting away from those conference teams and the teams that are familiar with you, they play a similar brand of basketball, I think can be a benefit for Michigan State.
Another thing they got to make sure they do, and something they had done as of late, they even did it against Purdue despite the loss, take care of the basketball. Because Davidson takes care of the basketball. They average just under 10 turnovers per game. And we've seen all year that the Spartans at times average that in the first 10 minutes. So got to take care of the ball. And really weird stat that I found, Ryan, is that the Spartans are actually 5-3 against the top 15 ranked teams in the country when it comes to turning over the ball. Davidson being one of those kind of teams, but Michigan State beat Minnesota, who's number 5. They beat Wisconsin twice, and they are I think they're the nation's second cleanest team when it comes to turnovers. So defensively, can't get lost on screens at the perimeter and leave wide open three-point shooters. Take care of the basketball. Bingham, get your big body down low, get blocks, get rebounds, get some dunks, put a little fear in those guys, and the rest should take care of itself, because I don't think Foster Loyer is going to be a factor in this game. I think he's going to be what we saw from Foster Loyer more often than not when he played for Michigan State, which is too small and just not quick enough. So we made a promise to you guys that we were going to kind of give away our finishes for this NCAA tournament, even though it's just getting going, and we will, for future shows, talk about what has happened and what we're going to be making changes, because I'm pretty sure neither one of us is going to be perfect with our Elite Eights and Final Four picks. So, Ryan, who do you have coming out of the West to be in that Elite Eight?
Out of the West in the Elite Eight, I have Gonzaga and UCLA. Nope, sorry, Gonzaga and Texas Tech. Okay.
Well, that makes 2 of us. All right. Who you got coming out of the East?
Out of the East, I just gave them away. UCLA and Kentucky.
Okay. That makes 2 of us. Stop copying my homework. All right. Who you got coming out of the South?
The South is Arizona and Tennessee.
That's right. Okay, we got a difference for once. I got Arizona and I got Villanova, because I want no part of seeing Tennessee again. We played them at Tennessee. It was a garbage game for us that we did not win. Not happy about it. Don't want to see those big bodies again. All right, and who you got coming out of the Midwest?
Kansas and Auburn.
All right, I got Kansas and Wisconsin. So we got some differences on that side of the bracket, exactly the same on the other side of the bracket. Who you got for the Final Four?
Gonzaga, UCLA in a rematch, and then Arizona and Auburn.
All right. I got Gonzaga and Kentucky. I got Arizona and Kansas. And who's your championship game?
Gonzaga, Arizona, and I got Gonzaga with the dub.
Sorry, man. Well, we got the same national championship game, but y'all already know where I'm going for my national championship winner for the first time since 1997 for the Pac-12, as well as for my Arizona Wildcats. Arizona Wildcats cutting down the net. Tommy Lloyd beating his former boss, Mark Few, his former team in Gonzaga. Why? Because we bigger. We spread the ball even better than Gonzaga does. We average the most assists in the NCAA, and we can score with anybody. And something we do better than Gonzaga, we play defense, real defense. So bear down, Arizona.
So which one of these teams did it hurt you the most to give them a loss? I mean, besides obviously Michigan State, because you like them, but what team do you think can end up making you look stupid?
Team that I think could make me look stupid. That's tough.
So you can simmer on that. For me, it was Purdue.
Okay.
And maybe just because I saw them beat Michigan State, and we've watched more Purdue games this year because we're in Big Ten country. But I love Jaden Ivey. They have Zach Edey, 7'4" or something like that. And we've seen Purdue as a team not be able to get over that hump. And you got to do it once.
Yeah.
So I have Purdue losing to wherever my bracket went. I had Purdue losing to Kentucky in the Sweet 16, and I don't know. It's still something that, honest to God, I might end up switching before the games tip off. on Thursday. But I don't know, man. It's tough. But Purdue is that one team for me where I was like, they could very much make a Final Four run. You have probably the best guard in the country. You have a big who just a lot of people can't match up against, and you're just a good team all around. You've had a coach who hasn't had March success before, but he's certainly been to the NCAA tournament a bunch of times. Just kind of an experienced team, and one that I would not be surprised at all if they beat Kentucky and then went on to beat UCLA and made a serious run.
So thinking about it, for me, it's Purdue's opponent in the Big Ten championship game. I like watching Iowa play. I like the way they move the ball offensively. I like all the threes that are coming off of that team, which is something I don't normally like, but I do like the way Iowa does it. I have them falling to Kansas. I would love for them to upset Kansas. Absolutely. But, and if they do what they've shown they're capable of, put up 105 points and hit a whole bunch of threes, they can beat any team in the country if all that is working. So for me, it's probably them. Do you have any double-digit upsets? And I'm not talking about 11 Michigan. That doesn't count. They're favored by Vegas. But do you have any big upsets in the first round of the NCAA tournament?
I think my biggest upset is I have Vermont taking out Arkansas.
Yeah.
In the first round. And then, I have some more 11-6s. I have a 12 over a 5. I have Wyoming or Indiana, for that matter, beating St. Mary's, whoever they end up matching up against.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I'm kind of looking at chalk, and I'm pretty upset about it because I know it's pretty boring. But Vermont's that one team that I have taking out Arkansas and then winning the next round too and making it to the Sweet 16.
Now, the Catamounts, no joke. My cousin, one who played pro ball in Europe, that's where he played, was Vermont. So I'm always rooting for them. Grew up rooting for them as a kid, obviously rooting for him. I have a 13 over a 4, and it is the South Dakota State Jackrabbits taking out the Friars of Providence. The Friars of Providence, Ryan, listen to this. Their average total of victory this season, 4.8 points. In 11 days in February, they went 3-1, all three needing at least one overtime to get that victory. This is a team that got absolutely obliterated by Creighton in the Big East tournament, 85-58, and they were the 4 seed, and shooting just 30% from the floor. Meanwhile, Jackrabbits, 18-0 in the Summit League, and what am I looking at here? First in effective field goal percentage at 60%, first in three-point percentage at 45%, and second in points per game at 87%. So you're looking for upsets. You're looking for some big numbers to put up there because it can't be chalk. Look at Providence to fall in the first round. That's my pick.
Wow, I feel like I got to bring some numbers to the table now since you were over there acting like Jay Billis. Vermont is in the top 5 in effective field goal percentage. They are also one of the best teams just at not turning the ball over, and they're the number 1 team in the country in defensive rebounding rate. And that's a recipe for March success, right? You don't turn the ball over, you score a lot, and then you get the defensive rebound when another team misses. Pretty simple principles of basketball. But Vermont's a team that can do all that. And, one of these teams is going to pop off. And for me, it is them.
I mean, right out the gate when they did the show, someone came out and was like, all 4 11s are making it out of the first round. Like, that would be nuts if it actually happened. It's like that first one where it's really an upset outside of this Michigan one because they are favored. They got the perfect opponent in Colorado State. But like the 7-10, it's kind of a toss-up. The 8-9 is. The 5-12, we've been hearing for 15 years now how often a 12 beats a 5. So it's up there as well. But the 11-6, that's where the upsets really start coming. And there's a lot of people liking all the 11s or most of the 11s this year.
I know. And like for the 11-6 thing, like I don't know if it was more niche back then, but like now a lot of these 11s are like power conference teams. You know what I mean? Like you have, again, a Michigan team who was like a top 5 or 6 team to start the year. Who's playing better recently, so that's an obvious pick. You have Iowa State as a number 11, a team who's been, just traditionally pretty good. You have, Virginia Tech, and not that they're playing some mid-major, they're playing Texas. But then you have, either again, Rutgers or Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not having teams like Montana as an 11,
right,
or even a Davidson as an 11.
No.
Like, these are teams who have faced pretty good competition all year, and all of them probably have, close to a top 10 win, I would think.
Yeah, this ain't
Just
no
the
Florida
amount of
Gulf
games they play.
Coast or UW Green Bay or George Mason, anything like that. These are Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12, SEC schools that have been through the ringer and know how to play this time of year. So it definitely mixes things up from how things used to be for who 11 seeds were in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
We completely forgot to give our well wishes to a basketball legend in Detroit, George Blaha, the voice of the Pistons. Unless I'm forgetting something, but I'm pretty sure we forgot to mention that this man just had successful bypass surgery on his heart, and he's recovering. He's doing well. We wish George Blaha very well. We all grew up listening to him, and he has already announced he will be back next year for his 47th season as the voice of the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, 47 seasons spanning across 6 decades, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, the 10s, and now the 20s. I always love listening to George Blaha. I thought he was great when I started watching Pistons basketball. He's still entertaining to listen to. I don't know that there's a Pistons fan alive who, on a non-Pistons game, hasn't said, "Count that baby and the foul," or "the hoop and the harm." Just one of those different Blaha-isms. I've said it playing pickup basketball, and just watching, or watching my little brother play an 8th grade basketball game or something like that. It's always count that baby and a foul till I die.
All right, Ryan, you and I talked a lot of basketball over our years of knowing each other. You know who some of my favorite players of all time are. One's a Laker, Magic Johnson. One's a Piston, Isaiah Thomas. There's another one that's a Laker that took over the mantle eventually, and he is what everyone yells when they're throwing a sock into a laundry bin or they're throwing some trash into a trash can. We all know him by one name, one word. It's like Prince or Madonna or anything else. It's Kobe. So his name was brought up this week by one of the many Jason Williams that have been in the NBA.
Yeah, this is White Chocolate, one of the tortured members of those Sacramento Kings teams, which I think might be an important note in what he said. Basically, he came out and he was saying, Kobe's not top 5 of all time. And then he said, I might, go as far as to say he's not one of the top 5 best Lakers of all time, which just seems absolutely preposterous to me. And, it got people kind of rightfully, mad at him, because there's a lot of NBA players who love Kobe, right? A lot of NBA players have Kobe in their top 5. You listen to really any of them, and Kobe's always one of the names that they mention. And, I kind of don't understand where this came from. Like, if somebody asks him the question, you can say he's not in your top 5, which is fine. But to say he's not a top 5 Laker is just absolute lunacy when he's, number 2 at worst in terms of just being the Laker.
That is just
he's number 1 or number 2.
It's just Sacramento Queen haterade. That's all it is. He got his butt handed to him time and time again by Kobe and Shaq and those Lakers, to the point where Sacramento said, you know what? We need a better point guard. We need someone who might not be as flashy, because let's face it, Jason Williams, White Chocolate, that man flashy as can be. Real entertaining to watch with a basketball in his hands. But didn't always win that much. Wasn't always clutch when it mattered in the fourth quarter. So they shipped him, and they brought in Mike Bibby. And the following year, the Kings were all of a sudden one of the favorites to be involved for the NBA championship. Because if you look at the Jason Williams and Chris Webber-led Kings, the Lakers were sweeping them out of the playoffs. Mike Bibby and Chris Webber and Vlade Divac and those Sacramento Queen teams went 7 games with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, look, you can believe all the hype or whatever about the referee and giving it to the Lakers. I'm not here to argue otherwise. But in the end, you look in the record books, the Lakers got that championship. The Sacramento Queens did not. And yes, I will continue to call them the Queens because I hate that team up north, and I always will.
It's preposterous. So Jay Williams, I'm about to call him Jason like I know him. His last season in Sacramento, he averaged 9 points and 5 assists. Like, where are you? Like, how do you get off out here talking about Kobe Bryant this way? Talking about he's not a top 5 Laker when the guy's got 5 championships. Like, the real question would obviously be, is Kobe Bryant top 5 of all time out of anybody who's played in the NBA, Laker or not? And there's certainly, some Lakers on that list, right? The most storied franchise in basketball history. But that's a way more, a way more relevant question, a question that you can have way better discussion with than is he just a top 5 Laker?
Yeah, because that's just preposterous. Like, I'm sorry, but it's Magic and Kobe, and it depends on what you're looking for who's your 1 and who's your 2. Cap is absolutely in there. Jerry West is absolutely in there. Elgin Baylor's in there. Shaq is at the tipping point as well, right around there. But you're going to tell me Kobe's not a top 5 Laker, you're out of your mind. Now, you want to say he's not top 5 all-time NBA player, there's an argument to be made with one way or the other, depending on what you're looking at. Considering that he is the absolute mirror of who most people say is the number 1 player of all time in Michael Jordan, and he is the closest anybody has ever seen to what Michael got because that man carbon copied his game. And if you have the ability to, why wouldn't you? Like, if you have the ability to copy Michael Jordan's game, why wouldn't you do it? And Kobe just about did it while having hands about as small as mine compared to Michael Jordan's hands, which you add about 4 inches onto my fingers and you got Michael Jordan's finger length. But 5 championships, 2 finals MVPs, 7 times in the NBA finals, had to deal with some real lean years in between his championships. And that's when he kind of took off as the main option. 81 points in a game, NBA scoring champ twice in a row, got robbed of 2 or 3 other regular season MVPs. So he only has 1, which is the biggest joke to me. But his resume stands the test of time with just about anybody's in the game of basketball.
So for you, is he top 5 all time? That's the answer that people want to know.
My bias is yes. My realistic side and basketball historian side, he's not in my starting 5. Let me put it that way. My starting shooting guard is still Michael Jordan, as much as I love Kobe Bryant. But you give me point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, it's Magic Johnson, it's Michael Jordan. I'm going to get some hate for this, but it's Larry Bird. It's Tim Duncan at the power forward spot, and it's the greatest center of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's my starting 5. Now, the first man coming off that bench is Kobe Bean Bryant. Absolutely. So I got him at 6. Does that count?
Oh, you're copping please out here. You're giving starting 5s. For me, there's 4 spots that would be undeniable. You got Jordan, LeBron, Kareem. Those are my top 3. And then I have Magic Johnson at 4, and I think it's hard to argue for anybody else, but that's when you can kind of start throwing guys in. And then I do have Kobe at 5, just because I think what he was able to do, kind of the skill he was able to do it with, and a lot of these other guys who are in that conversation, whether it's Bill Russell, Shaq, Wilt Chamberlain is a name, people like throwing around. They were big when kind of nobody else was big. I mean, kind of with the exception of Shaq, but I don't know. It was just such a different game that from what I've seen in the competition that Kobe did have to face, what he did both with and without Shaq, I would slot him in there at number 5.
Well, I appreciate you for it. Speaking of the Lakers, HBO is now having a Sunday night enjoyment for myself and every other Laker fan out there with Winning Time. A phenomenal cast is recreating what the NBA and the Los Angeles Lakers went through after the 79 season throughout the 80s. And if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It's got great people in great roles. John C. Reilly is a spot on Dr. Jerry Buss. Jason Clarke it's scary how much he does look like Jerry West. And that first episode gave us a glimpse into the hidden side of Jerry West that most of us NBA fans don't know about. Because when we see him, it's either him playing in his playing days or it's him talking as a, VP, president, basketball operations guy. but this man was a fireball for these Lakers as head coach. Was not happy with Magic Johnson being taken because he thought they already had their starting point guard in Norm Nixon. And this second episode gave us a little more insight into Jerry West. Gave us a little more insight that I wasn't a fan of into Magic Johnson. And then we get to meet the devil himself when it comes to Laker fans. That would be one Red Auerbach, played by the fantastic Michael Chiklis.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Auerbach stuff was like so over the top. It was really fun to watch though. But that's where you kind of take the transition from, oh, like I wonder if this story is real. I wonder if this kind of happened, to like, oh, okay, this is definitely a TV show. But it was awesome. He was great in the role. They were both great in the role. And one thing that this TV show is kind of painting for me is just like how important, obviously, not only the Lakers, the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson rivalry, which, I already knew and had heard, had saved the NBA, but just like how important Jerry Buss was, like in particular in the NBA's whole scope, right? He's the one who brought Magic to LA when nobody else in the organization wanted to. He had the idea to make the Forum this LA hotspot, as opposed to just a place where the Lakers played basketball when nobody really cared about basketball. I don't know. I just didn't realize how kind of seminal he was in the entirety of the NBA scope and NBA history. One thing that I thought was super cool is we got to meet David Stern in this in this episode, and I don't know if he actually looked like that or not when he was younger, but I thought it was really funny. I'm trying to find the quote that he said. Here it is. He said something about the future of basketball. Stern was talking to Jerry Buss, and Jerry Buss said, "The Lakers are your future, David." And goddamn, was he right? I don't know, again, if that was a TV show thing or if that was something that actually happened, oral history. But man, that was cold-blooded.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Jerry Buss to say that to David Stern. Absolutely not. And that is something that if you're not watching this show because you think it's just about the Lakers, this is exactly why you should watch this show, because it's not just about the Lakers. Yes, the Lakers in the 80s are known as Showtime, but Jerry Buss wanted to make the NBA Showtime. That was his goal. He said there's no reason why this can't be a phenomenal, entertaining league. And everyone was so down on it and go do your history on why, but there was rampant drug use, and it was putting a black eye on the league. There was so many issues involved throughout different teams and players that games were being, they were being recorded and then played later. NBA Finals games were being tape delayed. They were not being aired live. There was just so much bad going on in the NBA. And Jerry Buss is a big part of why the league is now where it is, getting to that point. David Stern, huge part of it, absolutely, as the commissioner. But Jerry Buss kind of helped, kind of kick this thing into high gear and turn the NBA into a money-making machine and an entertaining league. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that as this series goes on. But 2 episodes in, I'm all in on it. I think it's you're learning a lot of things that you might not want to learn, but you're going to anyway if you watch this show. And the casting so far has been spot on. I'm looking forward to seeing who they're going to pick for Isaiah, because that's going to come in at some point, and the rest of the bad boys, who they're going to pick for Michael Jordan, because that's going to come along at some point. And if they even preview the future a little bit, we might see a Shaq, we might see a Kobe. There's going to be other guys that we're used to seeing later on that might be mentioned near the end of this series as well. But really well done series so far, 2 episodes in. Really enjoying it.
Yeah, and they did less fourth wall breaking, so
yes,
I'm all for that.
There was definitely a lot less fourth wall breaking. And the great Academy Award winner herself, Sally Fields, playing Jerry Buss's mother. Nice quick little spot with her. And she's just always fantastic. Someone not always fantastic, not always truthful, is the truth that Shaq gave him that nickname himself. Paul Pierce wilding out on our NBA Twitter moment of the week, Ryan.
So Paul Pierce was on the, I think it's called the No Chill podcast
No
with
chill
Gilbert
Gil, baby.
Arenas.
Yep. Gilbert Arenas.
And they're talking about James Harden and all these teammates Harden has had. Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, now Joel Embiid, Chris Paul. And Paul Pierce said that if he would have played with those players or players of that caliber when he was in his prime, like James Harden is, he would have 5 championships. And like, come on, man. Like Paul Pierce says a lot of dumb things. 12 hours later, 24 hours later, he was on Instagram out here getting a little too freaky with, I guess, his new girlfriend. And that was just on Instagram Live for some reason. So always a fun story with Mr. Pierce. But like, no, you wouldn't. It's just, let's stop it right there. No, you would not. There's absolutely, it's preposterous to even think that you would have 12 championships if you got to play with these guys. Because what you're ignoring is that James Harden didn't get to play with all these guys on one team, right? When he first had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, he was the 6th man. And then he got to play with Dwight Howard when you had these other loaded teams in the NBA, and James Harden and Dwight Howard wasn't anything that anybody thought enough for a championship. And then he had Chris Paul on his team, and they got close. And then Chris Paul got hurt in the playoffs. And, he was just on a team with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and all of them played, I think, all of 8 games like together. And now he's with Joel Embiid, right? Like there's so much that you can criticize James Harden for. And that wasn't just to defend James Harden for all of his losing ways, but to act like your situation when you were coming up in your prime from 2004 to 2010, whatever kind of years he wants to mark that as, that you were going up against the same caliber of teams. If you would have had that talent, you would just be out here ringing off 5 championships in those 6 years. It's a ridiculous thought, and Paul Pierce says a lot of ridiculous things, and I think it's just to like stop people from forgetting how good he actually, was, because there's a lot of these great players that go forgotten, but this isn't the way to go about it.
I hate this topic altogether because I hate Paul Pierce and I hate James Harden. So I don't want to defend either one of these fools, but it's absolutely in Paul Pierce's interest to stay semi-relevant because his shine was stolen by LeBron. Without LeBron James, Paul Pierce is the best small forward of his era. He's very much involved in trying to lead the Celtics to a title. He had bum teammates. His best teammate for the longest time was Antoine Walker, and that man ate himself out of the league. And then eventually his, former Celtic Kevin McHale threw him a bone in Kevin Garnett, and they put together their big 3 with Ray Allen, and then Rondo came along to help kind of complete that team, and that team embarrassed my Lakers like none other in Game 6 of the 2008 NBA Finals. So he got himself a ring, and he had a very good career. He might have performed better with the names that he listed for James Harden's teammates because he plays a very different game than James Harden. James Harden doesn't take advantage of his teammates because all James Harden does is play iso ball. He doesn't care about going down on the post. He doesn't care about setting picks and jumping off of it. He doesn't care about anything but give me the ball and let me see what I can do with it. So he's not taking advantage of the teammates he had because he needs to have the ball in his hand. But I'm not going to defend him for that, and I'm not going to defend Paul Pierce for making the asinine statement that he made because they play very different games. Paul Pierce may have played a better game with the names of the guys he listed who has played with James Harden because Paul Pierce doesn't have to have the ball in his hand the whole time. In fact, it's to his betterment that he doesn't because he's not a great ball handler. He's going to get himself to the elbow, and he's going to hit his 12-foot jumper from the corner there, the elbow right there, the top of the key, all day long because that's what Paul Pierce did. He tried to get to that spot any way he could. And he might have utilized those teammates better. But you got one championship that you needed Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen to come along and help you get to. You had a really good team, and maybe if Kevin Garnett doesn't blow out his knee, we have 3 straight years of Lakers and Celtics in the finals, which would have been fantastic. But didn't happen. KG blew out his knee. You were nowhere to be heard of for that year in 2009. He came back in 2010, lost in 7 to Kobe. We remind Paul Pierce one more time. You didn't get a retirement ceremony like Kobe because you were Kobe.
That's that's one of the other things about it too is James Harden as the main player on the team took the Rockets way farther than you ever took the Celtics when you were just like the clear-cut number one option. And like, I know it's towards the end of Paul Pierce's career, but he played with some great players too, right? Like, he was on the team with prime Blake Griffin and prime Chris Paul. He was on the team with, John Wall when he was still healthy, and Bradley Beal. So, like, for me, it's not the first time he's flew off the handle. He said he had a better career than Dwayne Wade, like years ago. And it's just, I don't know, man. Again, I think a lot of these old players, tend to get forgotten. And he's trying to make sure that doesn't happen. And that part of it I respect. But, like, let people tell you you're good, like they do for T-Mac, right? Because now every time they see T-Mac, oh, man, you were one hell of a player.
Yep.
And, like, it's like, oh, yeah, T-Mac was nasty. Like, let people tell that for you.
Yeah, the difference is Paul Pierce didn't have the injuries to end his career the way that T-Mac did. So there's no what if with Paul Pierce. We saw what Paul Pierce could do. Very, very good player. Very good small forward. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. I just still don't think he should have won MVP of those finals. I still think they should have went to Kevin Garnett. But I digress. It is what it is. We can definitely argue with that on another show because this is the end of this show. So for Ryan Griffin, I'm Matt Basson. We're throwing stones. Don't forget, find us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok. We got full episodes on YouTube. We appreciate y'all coming to our show, commenting, letting us know what we can do better. We always want to hear that stuff. And for both of us, we wish y'all have a great night. We'll see you next time on Throwing Stones.
Yep. Happy birthday to me tomorrow.